Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Denise O'Malley. I'm the founder of You Define Wellness, and thank you for joining us today for another of our special webinar series that produced and hosted by You Define Wellness. Today, we have a very special presentation. Joining me today will be Polly Letofsky. She is the owner and the genius behind My Word Publishing. So, Polly, let me welcome you and say thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you. Everyone in high school might not agree with the genius part, but thank you. I'm glad it's being recorded.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
And
no,
there will
awesome.
there's no editing of this whatsoever. So we're going with however this goes.
Oh, rats. Okay.
So, by way of introduction, let me tell you about Polly. It's a little convoluted story, so bear with me for a second as I go through this. Polly and I actually only met a couple of weeks ago. And it came about because on February 24th, I had written an article and I had it published out there on my website. And it was about 10 pages long, if you can call an article 10 pages. And somebody sent me an email on February 24th and said, send me your book. Now, I have been wanting to write a book for a couple of decades now. I just didn't know what I wanted to say. And I wasn't sure that anything I had to say would be of any value to anyone out there. So I just kept putting it off, and I wanted to write the great American novel, and I kept starting on it, and it wasn't so great. So here somebody sent me an email and said, send me your book. And it was like, oh, they're right. It is the book. And so I transformed it. And doing it all on my own. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a publishing coach out there. And eventually I posted something on Facebook to all of my friends who have published books in the past and said, all right, I need somebody to educate me about self-publishing. And Polly Letofsky's name came up over and over again. And so we connected. She invited me to an event that she was the guest speaker at a Denver Public Library event about publishing and self-publishing. And that night we found out that we actually do have a connection, that she knows my husband very well. So, Polly, we need to talk to him about how to network effectively.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
I'm so grateful that we had a chance to connect, and I am so looking forward to this presentation. So without any further ado, Polly, it's all yours.
Well, thank you. There are a lot of topics within self-publishing, of course, that can be week-long courses in their own right. So a lot of these points I'm going to touch on just with a little bit of elaboration and of course, just realize that they could go on and on, okay? But I want people to realize that you don't have to be this enormous thought leader, the very best at what you do, etc., to write a book. And I'm gonna show you some ideas of what I mean about that. But a book can help you, of course, grow your business and help you with your reputation in your business and help cement your role as the expert in your business and how that creates legs, etc. So actually, I'm going to dive right in, okay, and give you some examples. So there are 8 ways to build your business with a book, and I'm going to go. So we're going to start with number 1, and that is you are cementing your role as an expert in your field if you have a book. So here's how I want you to think about it. If there are 1,000 people that do what you do, but you have a book, then what that does is help pluck you out of this big pile of obscurity, okay? So here's some examples of that. I actually ran into a car salesman once, and he had put out a book on tricks and tips on how to get the best deal on a car, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was passing this out to people. But as he was, he's out on the what do you call it? The showcase, what do you call
floor?
it? It's a big word. Yes, thank you very much. The show, the floor, it's a big word. But people were asking for him, the poor honeys that worked with him. The poor honeys. Yeah, they're just going to get out of the way. I think his name was Chuck. So anyway, Just because what he did was write a tips book, and tips I'm going to talk a little bit more about in some further detail, but he wrote a book on what you should know about a car, tips to buy a car, etc. So everyone was going to him. So that plucked him out of this enormous pile of obscurity about how many car salesmen are not only out there in the world and in his market, but actually on his showcase floor. So that really helped him. There's a mortgage lender as well that we dealt with. This doesn't have to be a thought leader in the whole industry, but he wrote a simple tips book on what you should do in advance of getting a mortgage, etc. And super easy to read, one tip per page, etc. But what that did was, again, pluck him out of that pile. You guys know you can swing a cat and hit how many mortgage lenders.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm talking about, cementing your role as the expert. If you have a book, even if it's an extended brochure, really. Okay, also under number 1, and the cementing your role as the expert, is you will always have author of in the back of your name. Okay, so if you write an article, there's author of in the back of it. Even let's take the car salesman again, or we could say insurance salesman, or mortgage lender. It could be real estate agent, and where there's tons of competition, you have author of the book that relates to your industry behind that on your business card. I would probably trust you more than the others. Okay. And then I want you to think about it like this too. This is the third example under this number 1. Is let's say that you work in the HR department and you're looking for someone in Denver, let's say, that coaches on how to improve staff retention. Okay, that is your field, how to improve staff retention. And she Googles it and she finds 100 people that do it. But next to your name, you're the author of the book about it. Do you think that's not going to help just pluck you out?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I mean about you're proving that you're the expert above all others. You're just lifting yourself up, giving yourself more opportunity. Okay. So that's number 1. Okay. And then number 2, of course, it's related, but having a book allows you an opportunity to use it as a PR tool. So here's an example of that. If you are a coach, if you're a consultant, or a facilitator of workshops, this kind of thing, a piece of your marketing plan should be that you're trying to get articles into related trade magazines. So for example, let's go back to that how to improve staff retention example, if you would. I know if I were a coach on that, I'd be trying to get an article into the Denver Business Journal, right? Because people read that Denver Business Journal as if it's the be all and end all. So a lot of those coaches are sending in, pitching an article to be into the Denver Business Journal, but you wrote the book on it. So that is allowing you sort of a head start. It's allowing you a jump in front of the line, so to speak. And you're using it as a PR tool that you can be the one to be interviewed. You can be the one to write those journals in those trade magazines.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's very real because I've been on the other side of that as well, where I'm looking for the experts in a field, and it's like, what is making you shine above all the others? And well, if someone wrote a book, I'm at least going to look at them before I look at the others. See what I mean?
I am going to do that. I'm going to take that idea and run with it, Polly, for the book that I'm writing right now on happy, healthy, thriving employees. So thank you for that idea.
Okay, you're welcome. You can go now.
Okay.
Your work here is done.
I'm done.
But every industry too, I might add, has an association, has trade magazines as well, online or otherwise, that you can submit to. So have at it. All right, so let's go to number 3. Okay, number 3, this sign kind of sounds cliche. It's been so overused, and I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by it. So you can use your book as a business card, but it's also being used as sort of a loss leader, if you will, and it's allowing you sort of an audition in front of people. So let me give you an example. If you are a consultant, hey, let's just go back to our let's just stay with our example here.
Sure.
Let's say you're a coach or a consultant on staff retention. All right. So you are a speaker and a trainer and a coach and a consultant on staff retention. So what happens if you can get in front of your bullseye target demographic? It would behoove you as the speaker, trainer, coach, consultant to give a book to everybody. All right, just give it out. Let's say, Denise, you're out there speaking in front of, what's that big HR association that every city has? I don't run in.
The
What is it?
Society for Human Resource Management.
There you go. Another big word. No, I don't run in that world. So I'll let you do that one. So you're going to go speak in front of them. Do you think that your book will probably cost you maybe $3?
Yep, I priced it $2.50 is what I priced it at.
Oh, you go, girl.
Okay.
I know. So that is your cost of this business card, but I also consider it a loss leader. You are investing this $2.50 to give it to these people that will do the hiring of that.
Yes.
Okay. So you're auditioning in front of them as well. So in this case scenario that I'm laying out here, you're speaking in front of your target demographic. So you're speaking, you're showing your expertise, and you're giving them a book. Do you think that they're not going to pounce on you if this topic doesn't come up which this topic comes up all the time? So
now let me jump in here on this one, is that when you're doing that, you have to make sure that you're giving it out wisely. So for instance, I probably will not use it as a business card with one of my ideal clients that perhaps only has like 5 employees, but you can bet your sweet Bippy I'm going to give it to someone who has hundreds of employees, like the city of Denver. So it just kind of makes sense as to where you're going to use it the best for your business.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. And in fact, even when you're talking in front of a lot of people, you could say on your chair, I have left you all this book. I beg you. I mean, I'm not beyond that. I beg you. This is such good information. If you can't use it, please, I know you run in this industry, please give it to someone else. It's your big ask, right? Bet. And the big ask, I've discovered, is very powerful. I heard the statistic once, and I take it with me every day in my back pocket. 95% of people want to help you. They just don't know how. So sometimes we've got to tell them how you can help us.
That's great.
You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if you're in front of that group, please give a big ask. This is what I ask of you.
Right.
I've worked hard on this book. This is sought after information, and it's taken me years. I want it in the hands of the right people. Please consider passing it on to one of your friends or colleagues in this industry. Absolutely. Okay. So here's kind of the math on that, right? Let's say you're spending $2.50, maybe $3 to hand it out to, I don't know, let's say 50 people if you're out there speaking in front of them. So what's the math? 3 times 50. I think I can do that. $150?
You bet.
Let's say your cost on that is $150. But what's the ROI? You're sitting in front of the right people that will hire for this topic at some point. Mm-hmm. You just don't know when. But not only will they maybe hire you to come in and do a training, it might be a half-day session, might be a full-day session, maybe a 2-day session. It might be a keynote. It might be an ongoing consultation. So that's why I'm calling it a loss leader. You might be spending $300, but you're not only auditioning in front of these people, but you have the opportunity to get that back 10, 20, 30 times fold.
Absolutely.
So this, on this, I should have added business card / loss leader / audition.
I like that.
Yeah. Because that's a real powerful one, especially when we're talking about every consultant, coach, trainer should have a book. So if you don't, you're leaving money on the table. And I love a good math equation. I could show you how much money you're leaving on the table. Anyway, let's go on to number 4,
Okay.
shall we?
Sounds good.
Before I lose people on math equations, all right? Okay. Number 4, this is my personal favorite. Okay, because this did happen to me, and I'm going to show you some examples. Okay, you can use your book as a swag gift, otherwise known as tchotchke, right?
Yep.
How do you spell tchotchke, by the way?
Well, I was just going to say, I've always wondered how to spell it, and thanks for clearing that up for me.
Yeah, I double dare you to try to find that on Google.
Yeah.
Or try to get that in Scrabble. That would be a killer one. All right, so this actually happened to me once. Is Stuart Title of all places. My book, by the way, is about my walk around the world. I'm the first woman to walk around the world. It took 5 years, right? And took me 6 years to write the book about it. And anyway, so it's a memoir. It's not a business book. It's not a how-to, not a self-help. It's a memoir. A memoir meaning I am in one full arcing story the whole time. I don't break out of the story and give a lesson I learned. Okay? That's what a memoir is. One full sweeping arcing story. And so Stuart Title, through someone that worked for them, actually read it, and he said, what I took away from this story are lessons that we in the real estate industry should be taking with us every day. So he went to someone and they talked to me and they said, okay, we want 4,000 books. Okay? So I said, 4,000 books. Okay, tell you what, for 4,000 books, you can put your own face on the title. I don't care what you know. But when you are doing print on demand with publishing, you can actually just change on a dime, as opposed to the old days when you had to commit to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 books at once and go to a big offset printer. So with print on demand, you can do things like this. And so what I did, or what we decided, is I will go ahead and put your logo on the cover that just says a gift from Stuart Title. All right. Now, what else did I do is I took out the barcode. You don't have to take out the barcode, but this sounds kind of snotty, but it's not. You only need a barcode if you're going to sell the book. And they were giving them away. So I didn't need the barcode in there, and it allowed me an opportunity to give them something. So we put their logo on the back of the book as well. Okay. Now, what I don't have a picture of is the first page of every book. When you flip the cover, that first page is what's called a title page. I said what we could do is replace that title page with a note from the CEO of Stuart Title. So they loved that idea, and they just put a quick note, and they said, this is a story of perseverance and resilience that all of us in the real estate industry should have. And it was also a story of charity, etc. So it was actually, I mean, it was nicer than that, but did I mention I have no memory? At any rate, so with print on demand these days, we can be very flexible, and this didn't cost anything to put these in. I just had my cover designer put that in. Didn't take her any time at all. So what a great opportunity for them as well. And what these guys did is gave it out as a swag gift for Christmas. And I actually, who gives out a book, right? It's usually a pen. What do you got, a keychain or whatever? But these guys gave a book. And I remember getting a lot of emails from people saying that was really neat of Stuart Title to think outside the box like that. So I swing them. I swing them a good one for that one.
I stole your idea and I have applied it.
Did you? What'd you do?
So the book that I have not even written yet, that I am in the process of compiling data for, it's called Happy, Healthy, Thriving Employees, 101 Ways to Turn Employees into Raving Fans. And so it hasn't even, we've got the title, we've got the book cover and everything, but we already have a national company that specializes in payroll we were talking to them, and they love the idea of putting that book in the hands of all their salespeople nationwide. to give out to business owners to set them apart from their competition, because it's a very competitive market for payroll products and employee leasing, which is what this is. And so we're in negotiations, and we'll be coming to hopefully an agreement the second week of May.
Wow. Clap, clap, clap.
Yes, and they love the idea because it gives them another door opener, and they love the idea of putting their logo on it, and having this distribution source where our company will be out there to all the people we want as clients that they also want as clients.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah. So your ideas really work.
Great. Do I get a percentage on that then?
We'll talk about it.
Okay. So, there was another one I wanted to share with you. Is I was actually at a conference and I saw a CPA. Now, nothing against CPAs, but my point in bringing this up is that you don't have to be no fancy business or walk around the world to do a great sort of tchotchke gift book.
Mm-hmm.
And a CPA did this. And it was at the beginning of the year in January when people are just starting to put off thinking about their taxes, right? But he was a sponsor of this event. So what he did as a sponsor is he did a little tips book. It was like 31 tips to save money on your taxes or whatever it was, okay? 1 tip per page. And as a sponsor, he put that book in every registration bag at this conference. So that book probably cost him $1.50, right?
Right.
And he's got his branding all over it, and he is getting eyeball time with, it was like 150 people.
Wow.
And so it was like an extended brochure. It wasn't a fancy book.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been under $1.50. But I just thought that was such a great way to get in front of people, and
it's not going to get thrown away when you get home, probably, because it's a book. It's not a pen that you could throw away.
Plus, frankly, it's valid stuff.
Yeah.
How to save money on your taxes? Come on, give me anything I got. All right, and then there's one more I want to show you that I did under this scenario, meaning a swag gift or a tip book or something like that. And this is one that I did. So again, I'm in book publishing and marketing. So I did a very simple book, 121 book marketing nibbles, okay? So there's 1 tip per page, right? And they're all in this little 5x7 book. And this cost me $2.15.
Wow.
In full color, by the way,
mm-hmm.
to put out. So this is a great thing. So for when I go and give talks about book marketing, it's a great giveaway because people love it. It's attractive,
mm-hmm.
and it's inexpensive for me, but very valuable for the attendees.
That's awesome.
Okay. So it's a good giveaway as well. You don't have to give away 100. All right. So that was a fun one I wanted to show you as well. Okay. So I want to jump to sales leverage for your speaking engagements. This is how you can build your business with a book. Is first of all, we want you to get out and speak. This is the number one way. Number one by a long shot to market your book is to get out and do speaking. Okay.
Absolutely.
So let me give you an example. If a meeting planner wants to hire you, but they can't afford your full rate, what you can do is agree to the lower rate and make up the balance by asking them if they'll buy a book for everyone. Because here's a trick. Are you ready? I'm going to give you this is big information here. I want you to sit down for a minute, Denise.
Sitting.
Okay. There are 2 different budgets between hiring a speaker and an education budget. Most organizations and associations have 2 different budgets. So you can ask them, do you have an education budget? Well, would you consider for the balance of my fee to buy everyone a book? Okay.
Wow, that was worth the price of admission today. Awesome.
Yeah. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, it is.
And so that's what you do. So let's just give you an example. If your speaking fee is $2,500 and all they've got is $1,000, and you could say, well, do you happen to have an education budget? And they'll say, well, yeah. Would you consider finding out if you can buy everyone a book and have it come out of that budget line? Because here's another secret I want to tell you, all right? Is in the speaking world, most quote unquote meeting planners are not these certified meeting planners. They're usually someone that was appointed to go set up that meeting. So they don't know these things. So sometimes it's just up to us. I mean, I speak a lot, and rarely have I ever worked with an actual meeting planner, like a certified meeting planner.
Right. It's somebody who's been assigned a job.
Exactly. And it's usually like that poor executive assistant. Here, could you put this meeting together with 300 people and get catering and find a couple speakers and da-da-da-da-da. And she's like, what the heck? So she doesn't know these things. So if I tell her, oh, well, you know, my fee is say $2,500 and all she can offer is $1,000. Well, would you consider doing this? She's like, oh, well, sure, I could ask, you know, okay, because they don't know otherwise. So don't be afraid to ask that question. In the corporate world, they've got two different budgets.
Awesome.
All right. And let's say you can even barter a bit, depending on how many people. First, you got to find out how many people are in the audience. All right. So if there's 50 people in the audience, you might say, okay, full price for the book. If there's, 200 people in the audience, you got to figure out your cost of the book and figure out a good rate for them. They could maybe get a discount if they buy it for everybody.
No, I'm glad you covered that, because that was actually one of the questions in the back of my mind is, how much do you want to charge for the book? But and that's just a general question, but we'll get back to that one, I'm sure.
Yeah, ask that question at the end because I got some good answers for you.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. Let's go to number 6. Okay. And this is one of my favorites, I got to tell you. This is huge. I'm glad you showed up today. All right. You can actually find a book sponsor to buy every attendee a book. So let's say, no, they don't have this education budget. Okay. So this I have taken advantage of a number of times. And here's how it works. Let's say this actually happened to me. Here's a real life situation. There was a national cancer organization, because my walk around the world was for breast cancer, by the way. So this was a good natural fit. There was a national cancer organization, and they wanted me to be a keynote at their event because I talk so well. All right. So, but they couldn't pay me. And I got to tell you, sometimes it's a little dodgy to ask for money when you know they're out there trying to do a fundraiser and raise,
you feel bad. Yeah.
Right. So we have to come up with some alternatives. So I talked to them. I said, would you consider trying to find a book sponsor to buy everybody a book? There are 500 people. So they did.
Wow.
And they found a sponsor, and they bought 500 books, and I gave them a deal. But I didn't give them a huge deal because at the end of the day, my speaking fee is the deal, right? They're getting the speaking fee for free. So I don't want to give them some, half price on the book too. At the end of the day, I should just have them pay my mortgage. I'll remember that next time. Sure. Okay. So what you can offer the sponsor, and again, I want you to consider that these meeting planners don't do this for a living. So they haven't even thought about it. Every single time I've brought this up to people, they're like, oh, you can do that? And I said, yeah, you can do that. And here are some, but it's their legwork. It's not my legwork, okay? So I just tell them, here are some good kinds of organizations to go after. And here's what you can offer them in return. And then they're taking notes and off they go. And it works, gosh, I think 100% of the time.
Wow.
All right. So what you can offer them is, again, to put the logo on every book. All right. You can put a note on the title page, particularly if this is a big event and it's a big sponsor. You want them to walk out there like they got the best deal ever. So sure, offer them the copy or the title page to put a note on there to all the attendees, personally from the CEO of that organization. You can put a logo on the back, as we've talked about. Maybe the meeting planner could get it okayed to put their logo and a link on their event page, on their
Mhm.
web page. Sometimes you do stories and blogs in advance of a big event. You know, they could promise, you know, we'll mention you as one of the sponsors and put links to your website.
Right.
So those are some things that you can offer. And of course, the meeting planner could get approval to put their logo on all of their paraphernalia, their postcards and their invites and their banners and things like that. I mean, at the end of the day, that was a lot of money. You know, 500 people, let's say, I forget what it was, but 12 or 14 bucks a book. So whatever that was.
That's a great
So,
idea.
yeah, here's what it is. It's a win-win-win-win deal. So the Cancer Society won because they didn't have to pay for a speaker when they're out there trying to raise money. All right. The attendees win because they get to walk out with something. And of course, it was a great book. The sponsor wins because they get to get their logo and branding in front of the eyeballs of their target demographic and at least 500 of them.
Oh, yeah.
In that case. And of course, I win because I get paid, but I'm not taking money out of the pot of the fundraising and the organization that needs that money. So it's a win-win-win-win situation, and that's exactly what we all want as business owners, to make sure everybody wins.
Absolutely.
So number 6 is my favorite. So let's just look at that for a while. No, this has been a big winner for me in the past, because particularly if you are, you know, I always get asked to go speak at these fundraisers, and I don't want to take money from them, but you know,
Well,
a girl got to feed the kiddies. You know what I'm saying?
You're just sharing more creative ideas. Think outside the box, because at the end of the day, we're all in business to pay our mortgages. And so you've got to find a way to make it work. And you found a very creative way to make it work.
Yeah. And really think about how everybody can win. Of course, not just you. I was always taught in negotiation or deals, everybody wants to walk out of there going, wow, I got a good deal. And I guarantee you, in that scenario I've just laid out, everybody walked out with a great deal. So that
awesome.
Was all right. Okay, we're talking about number 7 now. Ooh. And this is, I have personally never done this, but I've heard of authors who have, and I want to give you some tips on how you could possibly do it. But I've heard of people that sell advertising, say in the back of your book. I think this would have to be a very special kind of genre. So I don't think you'd want to do this with, say, you know, a memoir. That would just be a little dodgy, okay? But I know I was talking to one woman who was doing a book, and it was about interior design. Okay. And so she wanted, with interior design, the whole thing is about color. And so she had to do a full color, really nice upgraded paper, hardcover kind of book, right? It's going to cost her a lot of money. So she was trying to put together a deal where she did have advertisers in it. And so for interior design, she could have all kinds of real estate, mortgage brokers, all kinds of designers, painters, any kind of the construction workers, this kind of thing, and all have ads throughout the book, maybe in the back of the book, because again, remember, this isn't the book that you're sitting down in a cozy, you know, chair and, you know, reading it. This is very much a how-to kind of book. But what I've never nailed down, because I haven't done this kind of book, is I want you to be very careful of what are you selling on a time basis. So for example, if I sell you an ad, Denise, to go in the back of my book, is it for the first 1,000 books? Is it forever? Is it for a time period? Is it for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? Is it you know, 5,000 books?
Because you want to make sure they stay in business.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a math equation. How much money do you need to do a print run? How much are you doing for the first print run? And I know if I were approached about buying an ad, I would want to know what your marketing plan is. How are you going to get in front of this target audience that I want you to get in front of.
Yeah.
So it's going to take it's not as easy as it sounds, but
Well,
people have done it.
Let's talk about real life situation. The book that I wrote as of February 24th, when I launched on my journey, it's called Hey Clients, Where Are You? And as we get into the back sections of the book, we're talking about social media management. We're talking about website design. We're talking about hiring a coach to help you in your daily motivation. We have a section on writing and authoring things. And so I could easily see where that's something that I need to consider for having someone like, Polly Letofsky having an ad in the writing section. It makes sense in that the resources for that type of a book that I have, which is about, your business planning, that you give them right then and there the resources to reach out. And especially valuable if that person has contributed a quote for that section. So I love that idea. It's something that I'm actually going to consider.
Yeah, I'd like to flush some of that stuff out with you, because the pro of doing the first run as an advertiser, you can call it a sponsor if you want, is that once a book is out there in the world, it makes its rounds. It's in distribution. It's all over the place. And so it does have a, relatively forever life, as opposed to maybe, say there's a fourth round and a fifth round, and that first round is getting a good bulk of exposure.
The first round is being delivered today, and it's a very small shipment because I already know that there's tweaks I need to make to it. It's the second round that will be a huge round, but it's not something I know if I'm going to go down that road. It's not something it doesn't really fit in what my business intention is, but it certainly makes sense for something for me to consider for my business.
Okay, we've got number 8.
Yay!
Are you ready?
8. Yes.
This is one of my favorites too. This and the sponsoring. Okay, you use the back matter of your book to pitch your products and services. This is especially good for business, how-to, self-help, nonfiction related books. Okay. But as a memoir, I do this as well. I'm going to give you some examples. So the back matter is everything after the story ends. Or if there's no story, everything after the main content of the book ends, okay? So that would be the afterword, that would be the glossary, and of course, most of us don't have those things. But here's an example of what I'm looking for, okay? I promise you, this isn't me pitching my book, but it's my, this is my example. So, okay, so here's some examples of what I have in the back matter of my book. The story has ended. So now I have a pitch to book clubs. Book clubs want memoirs and fiction and, not really business related books, of course. So this is a big market for me, okay? But then I also have there's a video, a documentary on my walk. So I pitched that a little bit. And then over here as a speaker. Okay. So if you are a coach, a consultant, a trainer, this is what you would do, is put those on these pages. Is, you do workshops. Another thing to put on the back here is your other books. Okay. So let's say, Denise, taking you as an example, you put your book out, it's out there in the world for a year, and then you put out your second book. The beauty of the publishing world today, the print on demand publishing world, is that at any time you can actually go in and change your first book and add a page saying, please consider getting my workbook if you really enjoyed this book. You see what I mean? Yes. So you can actually go back and change any of this. That's the beauty of print on demand. Okay. So another thing that I have in my book is my charity of choice. Okay. I have a charity of choice. So
I like that.
It's not in here, but exactly. That's a neat thing that I tell my authors too, especially if it's part of the book. Like we're working with one woman on how to train dogs. It's a dog training book. And she has her charity of choice, which is, a dog shelter.
Right.
So she mentions that in it as well. So
it's a great idea.
yeah. So when you, the option is, of course, when you're putting in your second book, you can put an excerpt or testimonials, endorsements, that kind of thing. And I want to point out something else too. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's a good point about the testimonials.
I'd like to point out.
About it.
Okay. See this picture of me speaking, you don't know that's me. I mean, it is me, but I mean, my point is what you're trying to do with this picture. The picture is very important when you're saying that you're a speaker. You want to sort of give social proof that you can speak in front of a good group of people. Okay, or whatever your target is. If you're doing workshops, you want a photo of you in action with people. So I don't want a close-up of me speaking. In fact, the further away, the better, because I want to show the foreground of an audience full of heads, meaning I'm really telling the meeting planner that I'm comfortable on this stage in front of a big crowd like this. That's the picture you want to do. I don't want to see, a close. I could do a close-up shot in the kitchen, me with a microphone. I mean, that's not what we're looking for. So just remember, one of the purposes of this is to show people what market you're after, what you're comfortable with, etc. Okay. So those are my 8 ways to build a business with a book. Did you come up with any others while we were?
No, but I'm going to validate a couple of things you said. Before I had said it in the introduction that I'd been wanting to write a book for decades, and that was before. It seems like everybody's writing a book right now. I can't turn around without hearing about somebody else writing a book, and the self-publishing world has made it so easy that it, in my opinion, up until just a couple of months ago, it felt as though the prestige of saying you're an author had kind of faded away because everybody's writing a book right now. And I'm going to tell you that it hasn't. That's the one thing I learned that validates your point number 1 that you were talking about being an expert. It has been amazing to me how many people have said, oh, you're writing a book? Or, oh yeah, hey, this is Denise, she wrote a book about. And it was a book that was about what I know very well. I did not see the value of it until I started seeing it from other people's eyes. And so it really is amazing how it's already transformed my business in not even, right at 2 months is been the process that I've been in, and I'm having fun. And little did I know I'd be writing 3 books this year. I think I'll take a break after this, but let's go back to my question that I asked. Is you help people in the self-publishing world more than anything else. How does someone set a price for their book?
What I do is I go on to Amazon. Amazon is a great research tool, by the way. I mean,
yes,
all day, every day as a research tool. So I go on to Amazon and I compare up to 20 books that are apples to apples. Okay. So I would go on and look for that genre. And it has to be that format. That sounds obvious, but you don't want to make sure you're not comparing ebook or hardcover to paperback. Okay. And size, the page count roughly. So again, 400-page book to 99-page book. These are real live scenarios I've had. So I'm like, whoops, we can't compare that. That's just a whole different ballgame. So I just compare apples to apples right down the line, and I see how they're selling, and I see how professional that publishing company is. So, because I'm a big fan of what I call follow the leader. Okay. Right.
Well, you don't want to price yourself too far out of the market, and yet you don't want to be too low.
Right.
You are doing it to make some money out of it. So, it's kind of a crapshoot. So that's an interesting point on there. This is a good time for me to just remind everyone, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, and I will make sure we ask Polly. We're only going to have a couple more minutes left on our webinar. But tell me, Polly, when somebody like me, I mean, in January I really thought I was going to be writing a book. I think the questions that would have been going through my mind is, how do I get started? Do I need to hire a publishing coach now? Of course, I didn't even know there was such a thing as publishing coaches 2 months ago. Is it okay for me to do it on Microsoft Word? You and I have had that conversation. Just really some basics for the person who's like, okay, I don't know where to take the first step. What would you say?
Yeah. Okay. So obviously it's all over the board. So let me give you some variables here. There is a whole spectrum of how to self-publish a book. So that means you could write your book, self-edit it, put it in a Word document for formatting, and upload it to Amazon tonight. Yay, the whole thing will cost you maybe $5 if you got a template cover design online. Okay? That is not a real professional book. But I understand that not everybody has the budget, and it might not be necessary. What if your vision for this book is to simply get everyone a copy of the Family Legacy book by this weekend for the family reunion? Okay, so if that's your goal, then the tools are available for you now to get your content into the world, and that's sensational. But it is not going to be the number one marketing tool is word of mouth, and second is actually speaking. So word of mouth, that kind of book where you did it all yourself, more power to you, but you didn't have professionals involved and blah blah blah. So you want to get that word of mouth. Okay, so with that said, it can be all over the board. I want people to understand that you can get your content into the world today. That's fantastic and next to nothing. But if you want a really professional book, you should get professionals involved, professional layout people, professional editors, development editors, copyline, proof editors, cover designers, etc. Okay? So it can be, I think the most we've ever spent on a book is maybe $9,000, and that was an enormous 130,000 word science fiction fantasy.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was a monster.
Wow.
Okay, but I'd say usually they fall between 5,000 and 8,000, and the big variable is always editing. So people come to us in two different ways. One is, I've been writing this manuscript for 1,000 years, and here it is. What do I do now? And then we create a plan for them. We get them to the right editor and, of course, figure out their needs. What are your wants, your visions, and we'll help you get there. But the other way people come to us a lot is, gosh, I have this idea and I don't know how to start. I've got an enormous story to tell. I'm not a writer. And about 95% of our authors are not writers. So we're dealing always with first timers, always. So part of our job is to set expectations, make sure they're comfortable, get them the right team, because you got a whole book team with you. It's very stressful. I say to authors, writing a book is annoying and aggravating and frustrating and thrilling and exciting, and you'll never do anything better in your whole life, and you'll hate it and love it at the same time.
So true. So true.
I suspect it's like having children, although I've never had children.
Yeah, but you get an epidural or a Percocet with that.
Right. So if you want to put out a really good book, it's going to be tough enough on your own.
Yes.
But you can have a team with you. But anyway, if someone comes to us with that, meaning I've just got this big story, I don't know what to do first, we would get them together with a writing coach. And this is a mistake that I made that I didn't know existed, and that is to get a writing coach instead of struggling through a manuscript on your own. Get a writing coach to help you out, and they're sort of your partner in writing this. They help you flesh out that sort of arcing storyline, or if it's a business book, how the chapters should run and in what order, and create that outline. What should be covered under chapter 1, chapter 2, etc. And they work through that whole thing with you. It goes so much faster when you have a writing coach, so much faster. Because let me point something out. Writing is a discipline. It's a discipline the likes you ain't never seen. So just like if I go to the gym and buy a gym membership doesn't mean I'm going to lose weight. So I wish. That would be fantastic. But yeah, it always works best when you have a workout partner or a
Mm-hmm.
personal trainer, and it's the same with writing. That doesn't mean that you can't write,
Mm-hmm.
but you are having a partner throughout the whole thing.
Right.
It's priceless. I wish I would have done it that way.
Well, going back to like you as a publishing coach, you're going to help people navigate whether they want to turn it over to you or hire you to help guide them through the process of learning, what is an ISBN code? What is that barcode on the back of the book? Do you need it? Do you not need it? Do you need to file it with the U.S. Copyright Office? Do you need to do all these different things? Because there's a myriad of information out there and it gets a little bit confusing. So you help navigate people through all of that or do it for them, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of legalities too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when people have struggled for years to write their manuscript and it's full of lyrics, and I have to be bad cop and say, oh, honey, you got to get rid of those lyrics. You can't use lyrics in a book.
Yeah.
I can't. No, somebody else wrote those. That's a
Well,
copyright infringement.
and let's transition that to the other part of not just lyrics, it's artwork. And if you're putting artwork into your book, you darn well had better have purchased it from one of the sites, not just borrowed it from the internet.
Thank you. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean you can use it. Anyway, there's all these legalities. Yeah.
Yeah.
I consider this is how I explain what we do a lot to help people understand. We're sort of like when you hire that general contractor to renovate your kitchen, right? They know their way around that system, the legalities, what the city needs, what permits do you need. They know the right electricians, the right plumbers, and they know when things have to go in and in what order. You're still engaged constantly. Like that contractor might say, okay, honey, I'm putting in the backsplash on Thursday. I need blah, blah, blah square feet of backsplash, and I look for this material and that material. Okay, so off I go. So you're still engaged with the process, but they're managing it and they know the legalities, and then the kitchen still belongs to you, and that's what we do. The book still belongs to you. It's all yours. You're just hiring us as sort of a general contractor to make sure that you're all up and up and
Mm-hmm.
legal and supported, and you always have someone to turn to. It is, you're talking to someone who made all the mistakes.
Yeah.
It's painful and expensive. And okay, there might have been some crying, maybe some not so nice words.
And that's one of the things that we may want to do on another webinar is talk about some of those pitfalls. I mean, we have, I believe, successfully talked about using a book to build your business and your business exposure. But for someone really wanting to get into it, say, okay, I'm convinced, I want to absolutely do this. Um, I'm going to tell you right now, Random House is not going to buy your book. So you're not probably going to go to one of the main um, publishing houses. So learning what is out there and the different platforms available, that could be a really good presentation for us to do at another time, Polly. I think it would be awesome.
Yes, part of my mission after getting ripped off so badly in the industry is to, in fact, educate people to know exactly what they're getting into, because it's a big hot mess, and I just want to save authors from all the pain and expense I went through, and I only charge 10% from what I spent, so
Oh, that's good.
yeah, if I wasted $15,000, I've saved you $15,000, so I'll take 10% of
Oh.
that, right?
Oh my goodness. And and then also with the self-publishing being so easy, and let's face it, you can go to CreateSpace, which is owned by Amazon, and you can easily, as you said, get published tonight if you absolutely want to. But there are also reasons not to use CreateSpace. And that's something that needs to be really understood, particularly if you're going to be using your book for marketing purposes and co-branding it and doing other things. Am I correct on that?
Oh, that could be a big topic,
Yeah.
but you can actually use, well, let me back up. Okay, there have been two ways to use CreateSpace. One is to use them for your cover design, your layout, your editing, etc. They have just last month discontinued those services.
Oh, okay.
which I was dancing because they just have not done a good job. That is no secret. They've not done a good job. But we've always used CreateSpace for this other way to use them, and that is to be your printer and distributor. Okay? So what if you, for example, don't want to be on Amazon, but they make it just so darn easy to print the book one at a time? You can use them just as a printer one at a time and just never put yourself into distribution. So there are various ways. And now there's some things they don't do. They don't do a spiral bound. I think you wanted to do a spiral bound. They don't do hardcover.
My first one is a spiral bound.
Yeah. So there's certain things they don't do. And there are other organizations to do that. So.
And I have found that using a local printer has been amazingly a good experience. Good. And I've actually been very, very surprised how good of an experience it has been. So there are definitely resources available locally with some very large publishing homes or printers that with great pricing.
Yeah.
The one that I'm working with right now, and unfortunately I can't even think of the name off the top of my head.
Fredericks? Weren't you with Fredericks in Denver?
For an author getting started, you can do a minimum order of $250, which will buy however many books it buys, depending on how big your book is. And that's just to build a relationship. And after that, then they work with you on different quantities. So in my book, I think I'm getting somewhere about 40 or 60 copies. I can't remember. For that, I just wanted an introductory level amount because I knew there would be changes to the book. And I didn't want to print too many copies. And 40 books will meet my need. So I'm happy, actually, with that arrangement. Perfectly happy, particularly with the customer service that they've given me. So, definitely don't be afraid of using local printers, but check the references and get referrals.
Yeah, thank you so much for organizing this, Denise. Again, part of our mission is to save authors. And while that wasn't the theme of today's webinar, at least we've touched on it. So thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for joining me today. We're at our hour right now. So for those of you who have watched our webinar, thank you very much for joining us. If you have any ideas of webinars you'd like to see in the future, please do not hesitate to go to our Facebook page, which is under U as in YOU, Define Wellness, or go to our website at udefinewellness.com. So Polly, have a wonderful day. Thank you again for joining me, and I will stop the recording now.